Our main character for today is Zion Agnes. He is the seventh prince. In the eyes of the emperor and his brothers, Zion is just a lazy, timid, and incompetent coward who only cares about seeking pleasure. He intentionally built this terrible reputation so that other factions would cross him off their list of rivals for the throne. Unlike the other princes who are going crazy fighting for power, Zion's only goal is to escape the suffocating royal palace and live a life of absolute freedom. A voice full of deep regret echoes, "If only I had never listened to that bastard." Back then, Jimmy confidently ordered him, "Don't overthink it, just sign right here." Zion's hand hesitated slightly as he held the pen. He asked again, still full of doubt, "But is this really safe?" Hearing that, Jimmy got annoyed, slammed the table, and snapped, "Oh, come on, seriously. Hey, what did I just say? I told you not to overthink it." Putting on a friendly face, Jimmy said, "Do you really think I would scam my own high school buddy? I already explained everything. Your capital is safe, and you even get compound interest, my friend." He kept luring Zion in. "Just put your money in here, and it will multiply on its own. I haven't told anyone else about this sweet deal. I only called you because I was thinking about you." Jimmy used words that messed with his head. You had to take work calls right during your dad's funeral. Then, you had to bow your head and suffer under that boss of yours. It seriously broke my heart. Zion gritted his teeth in thought. When Jimmy mentioned his dad, he felt a flash of pure anger, but he couldn't do a single thing about it. Putting the pen down to sign, he silently prayed, "I can only hope this kindness in front of me is real." Back then, that was all I could do. Remembering Jimmy's wicked face, Zion cursed himself for being such a complete idiot. Time flew by, and it is now 2 years later. Currently, light peeks through the crack in the door, revealing a messy, cluttered room. Zion is sitting in the bathroom, throwing up uncontrollably. His face looks completely lifeless as he curses in discomfort. "Damn it, I just bought some cheap snacks for a meal and puked it all up." He knows one thing for sure. As an ordinary 28-year-old man in South Korea, his current life is far more pathetic than just that. Zion looks down at the pile of books next to him in total defeat. The bastard who caused all this has been off the grid for a whole year, while I am living like trash, drowning in debt. He lingers by the novel on his desk and tells himself, "I still have 5 hours until my part-time shift starts. I guess I will read a bit and then go to sleep." That is right, the only joy left in Zion's rotten life is the novel Dark Header. He reaches out to grab the book and mutters, "Just 30 minutes. Sitting on the bed, Zion starts doing the math. I must have reread this over 100 times by now, but it hooks me every single time. Well, I already know the plot by heart anyway. He starts turning the pages with one thought in mind. This is the only escape that helps me forget this broken life, even if just for a little while. Suddenly, Zion's eyes are drawn to somewhere else. Outside the window, 2 crow feathers are falling. Zion wonders in confusion, what is this feathers? His eyes stare blankly as he guesses black crow feathers. Suddenly, blood gushes out of Zion's nose and mouth, leaving him in pure panic. Seeing the blood splattered everywhere, Zion asks himself in shock, what the hell is happening? A piercing pain strikes, making him clutch his chest tightly. Zion coughs up another mouthful of blood and thinks in agony, "I can't breathe." Zion's face turns deadly pale in an instant as he helplessly curses, "Screw my life." His entire body is filled with a sense of bitter resentment. Am I really going to die like this? In such a pathetic way. Zion leans against the headboard, his mind racing. Just as he is about to give up and think that maybe this is for the best, a wave of intense anger boils up inside him. I can't believe the last thing popping into my head right now is that bastard's face. He remembers Jimmy's arrogant, smug look. More black crow feathers begin to appear around Zion, but he can only slump there, completely powerless. Damn it, I couldn't do a single thing. A pitch-black space surrounds him, and broken, fragmented voices start echoing. Zion snaps his eyes open in a state of absolute dizzying confusion. He shoots up completely bewildered and asks himself, what just happened? Was it a dream? Zion's eyes widen in sheer astonishment. Looking around the room, Zion becomes even more disoriented. "Where am I?" he mutters nonstop. What the hell is this place? Suddenly a sound echoes, grabbing Zion's attention. Outside sits a black crow tilting its head and staring right at him. He stared out at the tree swarming with black crows and looked up, blurting out, "Huh." Suddenly, a black crow crashed right through the window and flew at him, scaring him half to death. Whoa! Yan panicked and screamed, "Somebody help me!" His heart was racing. What kind of freaky nightmare was this? Was it because of his insomnia lately? The crow kept getting closer, cawing louder and louder. Yan squeezed his eyes shut and prayed, "Please, just let me wake up from this dream, please." But instead of attacking him, the crow just gently nuzzled its head against his hand. Confused, he sat up and started petting it, wondering, what is with this crow? Why is it being so friendly? After a little while, the crow finally flew off. It joined the rest of the flock waiting outside. Watching them leave, Jan's eyes widened in sheer disbelief. Wait a minute. Is this? He took a good look at the scenery outside and it hit him. Don't tell me. Is this place? Yen walked over to check his reflection in the window. I was totally freaking out at first, but it didn't take long to realize. This isn't the reality I know. He guessed he must have crossed over into another world. But before he could even process it, a voice called out from the hallway, "Prince Yan Ayan, it is Anna. May I come in?" Hey. Yan panicked and spun around, yelling, "Wait, no, hold on, do not open that door. I am just not feeling well right now." Hearing the loud commotion inside, Anna froze in her tracks. Yan had completely face-planted onto the floor. His whole body was trembling from the pain. Ugh, my head. Knowing better than to intrude, she backed off. Understood. I will return later. Meanwhile, everything finally clicked into place for him. Yan Ayan, my hunch was right. Rubbing his aching head, he muttered to himself, "This place is the novel I have read over and over again. The world of Death Hunter. And the guy whose body I just hijacked is the seventh prince of this empire, Yan Ayan." The realization made him feel incredibly, utterly hopeless. This character was doomed to die a gruesome death right at the start of the story. Damn it, damn it, damn it all. He slumped against the bed in defeat. Son of a bitch, how did this even happen? I never thought I would actually wake up inside a freaking novel. But why did it have to be this guy of all people? While Yan was spiraling in his own thoughts, another voice called out from the door, "Your Highness, it is Sai." Yan's expression instantly darkened his eyes, turning ice cold as he thought to himself, Sai, the seventh prince's personal attendant. The man pushed the door open and casually strolled in. "I heard your highness was skipping dinner again out of sheer anxiety, so I decided to come see you myself." Sai adjusted his glasses with a slick smile. "I brought you a light meal. Are you feeling any better now?" Yan tensed up, warning himself, "Keep it together. First things first, I need to act like the real Yan Ayan." He slowly stood up and cleared his throat. Yeah, I am feeling much better." Sai looked at him with a hint of suspicion, but played along. "Well, that is a relief." He then snapped an order at the maid. "Hurry up and serve His Highness his food." Anna bowed her head quickly. "Yes, right away, sir." Forgetting himself, Yan politely muttered, "Oh, thank you." But as he watched Anna lay out the plates, he could not help but notice something was off. Why is she shaking like a leaf? And wait, is this seriously supposed to be food? It literally looks like dog kibble. Feeling a bit awkward, Yan reached out. "Just hand it to me. I can pour my own tea." But that sudden movement terrified Anna, causing her to fumble and spill the entire pot of hot tea. She instantly froze in pure terror, completely paralyzed. In a blind panic, Anna dropped to her knees right in the puddle, begging, "I deserve to be punished. Please forgive me." Yan was totally baffled. What the hell is wrong with her? Why is she acting like she just committed treason? Anna frantically scrubbed at the spilled tea with her cloth, stammering, "I am so sorry, Your Highness. I am so sorry." Then it finally clicked. Oh, right. It is because the original Yan Ayan was an absolute piece of garbage. Yen remembered from the novel, this guy did not just smash things and beat people up whenever he was annoyed. If he was in a truly foul mood, he would literally murder his own servants on the spot. Anna scrubbed the floor even faster, sobbing, "I deserve to die 1,000 times over, but please, Your Highness, please spare my life." The ugly truth was Yan was the most utterly irredeemable villain in the early chapters of Dead Island. Right then, Sai spoke up from behind him. "I hate to interrupt your meal, Your Highness. Who would have thought our noble prince would fall so dreadfully ill? Still, I am relieved to see you looking so well." He pulled out a rolled-up document. I apologize for disturbing your dinner, but... Sai unrolled it and slammed it onto the table, speaking more like a commander than a servant. I need you to sign off on this budget proposal first. These are matters of the utmost importance. Yan scowled as the pen was forcefully shoved into his hand. Important my ass, what a load of crap, he cursed inwardly. What kind of utmost importance could possibly involve a useless, incompetent seventh prince? He glared at the ledger in front of him. This is obviously a stack of forged documents. His real goal is to embezzle the seventh prince's royal budget. Yan stared at Sai, who was standing there so arrogantly. He remembered exactly why a lowly attendant had the guts to act like this. Sai was related to the Empress, and that supreme tyrannical Empress held an iron grip over this entire world. He pressed the pen to the paper, weighing his options. But the original owner of this body was a complete idiot who was completely clueless about all of this. I should not mess with the original timeline right now. Does that mean I just have to sign this thing? Noticing Yan's hesitation, Sai immediately sneered. Has your highness forgotten how to write his own name, even for a prince? That is rather embarrassing, is it not? Yan could practically feel the blatant contempt dripping from the man's words. A bitter surge of anger rose in Yan's chest. He was supposed to be royal blood, yet here he was being openly mocked by a mere servant. Even if I had to get sucked into a novel, did I really have to end up as trash like the seventh prince? Say kept pushing up his glasses and said, "It really is quite pitiful, but isn't that exactly why you need me? So your highness, don't overthink it. Just sign right here." Hearing this, Jian's entire body seemed to freeze. He remembered that day when Jimmy had also looked down on him with that same contemptuous attitude and said, "Don't overthink it, just sign right here." He gritted his teeth in immense frustration, silently cursing, "Damn it! How the hell is this any different from my reality, where I'm always being used by others?" Then Jian let out a heavy sigh. Making up his mind, "No, I'm not going to live such a humiliating life anymore." He spoke coldly, causing the man's expression to darken. "Sai, thinking it over, something feels a bit off. Isn't this clearly a blatant waste of the budget?" Sai smirked and fired back. "Well, that's a surprise. I didn't expect you to have such thoughts. It seems I've underestimated your highness." He put on a gloomy face and threatened, "But your food is getting cold. If you sign first, I'll look into that matter later." He raised his voice, urging, "So your highness, stop thinking and just sign it." Right at that moment, a teapot was hurled across the room. Anna flinched, completely terrified. The large teapot smashed into pieces, taking Sai's glasses down with it. He stood there in a daze and questioned, "Your highness, what is the meaning of this?" John replied incredibly calmly, "Oh, my apologies, my hand slipped." In his mind, he was constantly assessing the situation. Since I've binge-read this novel over 100 times, I couldn't ignore the details even if I wanted to. It was true that Sai was related to the Empress, but in reality, they were so distant they practically had no connection, to the point where the Empress didn't even know he existed. Sai froze, furiously scrutinizing him. "Your Highness, what the hell are you doing?" So John just swung his arm and flipped the table completely. His action left the man absolutely stunned. John's eyes darkened as he thought to himself, "I don't know how I got here, but I have no intention of resigning myself to a meaningless death like in the original story." He nonchalantly spoke in a freezing tone. "My hand slipped because you kept distracting me. Are you telling me you're not going to take responsibility for this?" John thought wearily. "In my previous life, I was born with absolutely nothing. I was looked down upon everywhere, living a life where I always got the short end of the stick. Well, I'm absolutely done living like that. I'll rely on all the knowledge I have from the novel and the power of the seventh prince." He urged him once again. "Say, what are you just standing there for?" John pointed down and said, "The carpet is all dirty now." His entire body radiated a cold, oppressive aura as he ordered, "Hurry up and clean it." In his heart right now, Jian had only one thought: I have to survive at all costs. Sai evaluated silently. The royal family are like gods. Everything in this world was born to serve them. He grumbled to himself, those special abilities that only royalty possess, along with their beautiful flowing blonde hair, aren't they the very incarnation of the divine and the ultimate symbol of nobility? Their absolute rule is a given. Sai's face clearly showed his intense hatred as he thought, except for that trashy seventh prince, of course. He angrily judged Jian. He's both ignorant and crude, and on top of that, he has that hideous jet black hair. How can trash like him even be called royalty? Sai gritted his teeth, filled with inner rage. A pathetic loser who only knows how to cower and live by reading the other prince's moods. Did I spend all that bribe money just to serve a guy like this? Even so, Sai still had to bow his head and clean up. He cursed himself, I'm so pathetic. Damn it, this isn't the time for me to be mopping the floor like this. A moment later, Sai finally spoke up to report, Your Highness, I've cleaned it all up. Right as he was about to leave, saying, Then I'll take my leave, he saw another cup getting smashed onto the floor. Sai jumped up in shock and shouted, Your Highness, what is the meaning of this? Jian bluntly fired back, It took you so much time just to do this tiny task. Use this chance to get some more practice. He coldly ordered, Hurry up and wipe it clean. Seeing this, Sai could only bow his head and mutter, You're acting really strange today. I don't know how I'm going to report this back to the Empress. Hearing that Jian let out a deeply annoyed sigh. He doesn't even have the clearance to meet the Empress, yet he dares to threaten me. It seems this still isn't enough to knock some sense into him. Mum, it's best to make things crystal clear right now so he doesn't act up later. So he turned to Anna and ordered, You there, cover your ears. She replied in a daze, Yes, wait, my ears, understood. John put on a dangerous, threatening front. This isn't something someone like you is allowed to hear. If you dare eavesdrop on even a single word, I'll make you work without any fingers left. Anna screamed in absolute terror. Ah, yes, yes, sir. Then she tightly covered both her ears and kept her head bowed low. Anna could only faintly hear Jian's muffled words. She didn't know what he was saying, but Sai's face was growing paler by the second. Drops of sweat were constantly rolling down his face. Back in the present, Anna whispered as she recounted the story. The guy's face instantly went completely pale. He looked like he had just seen a ghost. She whispered in slight confusion to the other maids. Now that I think about it, hasn't the seventh prince been acting really weird since that day? They nodded in agreement. Anna actually has a point. Anna hurriedly blurted out, You guys think so too, right? I feel like... Before she could even finish, the other maids were already wailing a river of complaints. He's become so much scarier. Are we even going to keep our lives by next year? They kept whispering and gossiping with each other. Well, at least it's a lot less stressful not running into him lately, right? Yeah, he doesn't even bother going out. He just stays cooped up in the palace all the time. Then they suddenly turned and asked, By the way, Anna, aren't you supposed to be working somewhere else? You're scheduled for cleaning duty today. It was only then that Anna remembered and gasped, I'm dead. At the same time, inside the office, looking at the sunlight pouring in, Jian couldn't help but marvel. The weather is really nice today. Holding a teacup by the window, he calculated, if I just act exactly like the seventh prince in the story, probably no one will suspect a thing. The servants also seem to be terrified and are actively avoiding me. He recalled that day when Sai walked away utterly defeated with his head hung low. Since that day, Sai hasn't dared to act up anymore. In fact, he doesn't even dare to come near me. That works out great. I really didn't want to smash another teapot on anyone's head anyway. John leisurely enjoyed the hot tea in his hand as he pondered. The reason I can relax like this is because I still have plenty of time. There's still 1 year before the plot officially begins and 3 years until my scheduled death. The novel that I've binge-read over 100 times. Honestly, it's ridiculous. I still vividly remember the day I accidentally stumbled upon this tattered old book in the corner of the local library. Thinking back on it, I realized just how obsessed I was with this story. He calmly calculated, it'll be a long time before the male lead appears and the story kicks off. For now, I'll just take it easy and enjoy this free time like a true noble. Then Jian looked outside again, telling himself, Anyway, the weather really is beautiful. If only I had wings so I could look down from above and admire this view. Suddenly, right at that moment, it felt as though an electric current surged through his body. The teacup slipped from Jian's grasp, shattering into pieces on the floor. Jian slumped over in intense discomfort. What is this? Why is my body suddenly burning up? He gritted his teeth, struggling to endure the heat. This feels different from last time. My whole body feels like it's on fire. Just then, Anna's voice called out from the hallway. Your Highness, are you in there? It's Anna. May I come in to clean the study? Jian's eyes darted toward the door, filled with desperation. Help! Please, help me! Outside, Anna let out a breath of relief as she pushed the door open. Phew, thank goodness. It seems like he isn't in here. Stepping inside, she let out a startled gasp at the sight of the shattered teacup on the floor. What in the world? Wait, what just happened in here? As she started cleaning up the mess, she muttered with deep regret. Oh, for heaven's sake, what a total waste. If I sold this, it would feed my family for a whole month. Suddenly, a strange sound caught her attention. Seeing a black crow staring right at her, Anna shrieked in shock. Wait, is that a crow? She quickly scrambled backward to keep her distance, but then, feeling bad for the poor thing, she cautiously approached and scooped John up into her arms. Oh, you poor little crow! How did you even get in here? You know there's a really scary guy who lives here, right? John's mind was in absolute turmoil. I can't believe this. Nestled in Anna's arms, John tried to process what was happening. Did I really just turn from the seventh prince into a crow? But how? Why is this happening? She opened the window and whispered to him. I'd really love to keep you, but if His Highness catches us, we're both dead meat. Jian felt utterly helpless. Wait a minute. I am His Highness. Then Anna stretched out her arms, preparing to toss him into the air. You know how to fly, right? Hurry, fly far away from here. Jian panicked, screaming internally. No, 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 don't let go. That is an order. Please, if you drop me, I'm going to fall. Unaware of his frantic pleas, she simply let him go. John let out a terrified mental scream. No! Staring at the lush green canopy rushing up to meet him, he felt completely powerless. I'm dead. I am so dead. If I hit the ground, I'll be smashed to pieces. John desperately tried to figure a way out. How do I survive this? I just need to use my wings right. His eyes burned with sudden determination. Fly. Come on, flap your wings. I am not dying in a place like this. On pure instinct, his dark wings spread wide open. He blinked in pure disbelief. What is happening? Jian flapped his wings midair, a mix of shock and awe washing over him. I'm flying. I'm actually flying. Wait a second. Will I be able to turn back into a human? Time flew by, and the sky slowly darkened into night. Standing by the window, Jian panted heavily. Thank goodness, I can still change back into a human. He had practiced transforming a few more times just to be absolutely sure. His face was pale as he tried to wrap his head around it. The ability to turn into a crow at will. I can't believe all it takes is just a single thought to trigger the transformation. Jian was still feeling overwhelmed, but why a crow of all things? Could it be a curse from that crow that clung to me on my very first day here? An ability like this was never once mentioned in the original novel. He began to plan his next move carefully. Whatever the reason I have this power, one thing is certain. Absolutely no one can find out about this. John's mind raced with concern. This whole crow transformation thing wasn't in the novel. It could seriously mess up the entire progression of the plot. This power definitely has something to do with mana. While Jian was still deep in thought, a voice called out from the hallway, rushing him. Your Highness, the sacred ceremony is about to begin. You need to get ready to head out. He turned around, muttering under his breath. So, the day has finally come. Jian recalled the details from the novel. Once a month, the emperor and all the legitimate princes and princesses would gather for this so-called sacred ceremony. They called it a ceremony to make it sound grand, but in reality, it was just a brutal test to measure their qualifications for the throne. And, of course, the seventh prince wasn't even considered a candidate. He grimaced at the situation. Seeing this with my own eyes feels completely different from just reading about it in a book. As expected, the seventh prince was forced to sit all the way at the very end of the table. John casually glanced around the room, taking it all in. It's probably because of their blonde hair, but every single one of them looks like they're radiating blinding light. Compared to them, the seventh prince stood out like a sore thumb, just like a solitary black crow. The moment he sat down, a mocking voice sneered at him. How does a filthy half-breed have the nerve to sit there and look around without an ounce of shame? John looked up, wondering who the kid in front of him was. He quickly realized it was the 8th Prince Selos, his 17-year-old half-brother, though clearly the brat didn't view him as an older brother at all. Selos rested his chin on his hand, glaring at him. "What is this low-class trash too stupid to understand human speech now?" John just relaxed his posture and let out a tired sigh. "Relax, kid. We're both just irrelevant minor villains meant to add a little drama." Infuriated by Jian's silence, Selos slammed his hands on the table and yelled, "Hey, are you deaf, you piece of trash?" Just then, Mento walked by and patted Selos on the shoulder, giving a stern warning. "Brothers should get along, Selos. Don't go causing a scene right in front of His Majesty, understood?" Selos quickly bowed his head. "I apologize, First Princess." John used the brief distraction to observe the seating arrangement. Ah, so that's the first princess. In that case, starting from the left, that would be the first prince, the third prince, and the second prince. First prince, second prince, third prince, first princess. They're literally seated in exact order of their rank. John analyzed the underlying truth. The brighter their blonde hair, the more terrifying their magical power. In other words, they are the only true members of the royal bloodline. He furrowed his brows, thinking about his own situation. Compared to them, the original owner of this body had pitch black hair. He was the only royal born without a single drop of mana. No wonder his personality became so twisted and bitter. And the undisputed peak of mana in this world was without a doubt the Emperor. Right on cue, a commanding figure entered the room, his brilliant golden hair practically glowing. Everyone instantly shot up from their seats, bowing deeply in utmost reverence. "All hail His Majesty the Emperor!" With glory in one hand and faith in the other, absolute destruction lay within his very grasp. John watched him intently, the absolute peak of this empire, the Emperor. Stepping up to the front, the Emperor stroked his beard and commanded, "Let us not waste any more time. Begin at once." Tracking the Emperor's movements, Jian thought to himself, that glowing blue stone slab is an ancient artifact left behind by the very first Emperor, Waiha. When someone channels their mana into it, the stone measures the exact depth of their power. Bursts of raw energy began to pulse and radiate outward. The way it displays mana is incredibly straightforward. You just have to see how far the light from the stone can spread across the room. The Emperor channeled a massive surge of energy straight into the blue stone. Witnessing the spectacle, the entire room erupted in awe. Whoa! The light reached all the way to the edge of the table, as expected of His Majesty. But Jian sat there in total confusion. Wait, was the light supposed to reach the edge of the table like that in the original story? Pulling his hand back, the Emperor issued his next command. "Whoever wishes to test their strength, step forward." Hearing this, Jian raised an eyebrow and turned to look. Garcia broke into a confident smile and raised his hand. "Your Majesty, I would like to go next." John watched the proceedings with keen interest. There isn't a strict rule, but traditionally, only the first prince steps up during this ceremony. That's because once the mana rankings are established, they almost never change. Jian pieced it all together. A person's mana capacity represents their absolute power in this world. The first prince treats this as his periodic showcase in front of the entire royal family. It's a power move to prove who stands at the top of the food chain and to solidify his claim as the next emperor. Wearing an incredibly smug expression, Garcia strode up to the stone. But the moment he touched it, Garcia's face went deathly pale. The second prince leapt out of his chair in pure panic. "Brother!" Dark crimson blood suddenly began pouring out of Garcia's nose. The entire room erupted into complete chaos. "Somebody help! Get the medics now!" Enzo! They panicked and yelled, "Hurry up and call a doctor!" Xian's eyes widened in surprise. Amidst all the chaos, he was the only one who knew exactly what was going on. He looked over at Garcia and thought to himself, the first prince is about to drop dead. He's going to be coughing up blood from his mouth and nose any second now. Xian told himself the main plot has officially begun. Mana is a special kind of power in this world. It usually only appears in people of the royal family and those with royal bloodlines, but everyone's ability is entirely different. For example, the first prince uses water mana. As for the second prince, he uses fire mana. The results of the first prince's mana test today were already set in stone. The light he emitted was probably just enough to cover a little over half the table, but that made sense considering that specific event wasn't supposed to happen for another 6 months. While Zian was certain of this, the crowd suddenly cried out in panic, "Brother, hey, is anyone there? Hurry up and get a doctor." Standing in the middle of the noisy crowd, Zian was a bit stunned. According to the original story, the first prince shouldn't have started coughing up blood for another half a year, and the male lead was supposed to show up even after that. Then he started piecing everything together. But wait, how could the seventh prince turn into a raven in the first place? The original owner of this body was a complete loser who couldn't use mana at all. Zian's eyes widened in confusion. An ability that never existed in the novel suddenly appeared right after he possessed this body. Was this really just a coincidence? After returning to his room, Garcia furiously cursed. "Damn it, this is totally messed up." He turned around and smashed the mirror in front of him, muttering, "Everything was perfectly fine this morning, and yesterday was no different from any other day." Garcia's hand started to gather mana. He groaned in frustration, but why? Garcia's entire body trembled uncontrollably. He grabbed his face and growled in pure anger. His mind was already in complete turmoil. "Every time I try to channel mana, my whole body burns like it's on fire. Don't tell me, I'll never be able to use mana again." He stood up shakily and told himself, "That's absolutely impossible. I am the first prince of the Ian Empire, the future emperor of this nation." Garcia gripped the smoking pipe on the table and thought, "I am completely different from those worthless bugs out there, that's for sure." After calming himself down, he took a drag and assured himself, "It's probably nothing serious. If I just rest for a bit, my mana will definitely recover." Before Garcia could think too much, a voice echoed from the shadows. "If you want to keep your life, you better stay far away from that potion bottle first." He angrily threw the pipe straight ahead and barked, "Who's there?" Looking at the shattered pipe next to him, Zian quietly assessed the situation. This guy really is a terrifying monster when it comes to brute strength. As soon as he saw it was Zian, he smirked and mocked, "Ha! And here I thought someone actually sent an assassin. You're just a useless piece of trash who can't even use mana, right? Who do you think you are to show your face around here?" Zian wasn't angry at all and bluntly fired back, "If I were an assassin, you'd be dead meat by now. You didn't even notice me until I spoke up, did you? Someone like me actually managed to sneak into the bedroom of the future emperor, the second most heavily guarded place in this empire, without leaving a single trace." Garcia turned around and demanded, "How did you get into my room? What kind of cheap trick did you use?" He casually replied, "I just climbed the wall from the outside." He yelled in annoyance, "You actually think I'd buy that crap?" Zian didn't care and simply said, "Well, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. That's not what's important right now." Zian bluntly asked, "How is your body feeling lately? Of course, your royal doctors will tell you that you're perfectly healthy, but you're the one who knows your own condition best." As if hit right in his sore spot, Garcia let out a scoff. Then he started laughing even louder. Garcia said sarcastically, "Right now, I get it. Who would have thought you actually had a working brain in that head of yours?" He furiously accused him, "You secretly poisoned me, and now you're trying to use that as a bargaining chip to threaten me, aren't you? All to save your own pathetic life after I take the throne, right?" Garcia switched to personal attacks. "If that's your grand plan, you're dead wrong, my stupid little brother." Zian didn't care at all and gently reminded him, "In just 1 week, you'll be the one begging for death when blood starts pouring out of your eyes and ears." Hearing that, he stopped right as he was about to grab Zian's shirt. Garcia blurted out in shock, "What did you say?" Zian calmly sat down on the sofa and said, "Let me make one thing crystal clear for you. I have no interest in using cheap tricks or dirty schemes on you." He slowly explained, "Your body will visibly weaken and then you'll die a tragic death, with blood violently gushing from all over you. Even I don't know who's actually behind this right now." Zian shot him a glance and warned, "But I'm just giving you a heads up. You better be a good boy and listen closely to what I'm about to say, because this is your last chance to keep yourself alive." Hearing those words, Garcia kept gritting his teeth hard, as if trying to hold himself back. A while later, Zian turned back into a black raven and flew off into the rain. He secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness! This guy is gullible and terrified of dying exactly as the novel described. When I left his palace, he didn't even bother sending a single guard to tail me. He calculated in his mind, For now, I'll just string him along however I want." Back in the room, Garcia was already grabbing his head in absolute misery. Xian flew straight toward the castle up ahead. "This is pretty handy. I have to admit, this ability is super convenient. Thanks to this, I can go to way more places than I ever imagined." Then he suddenly remembered something. "Wait a minute, since I'm already out here, I might as well kill two birds with one stone." Xian quickly changed directions and flew away. Time passed and the sun rose high, radiating a warm glow. Anna was feeling incredibly anxious. What am I supposed to do about this? She stood in front of the door and muttered in a panic. The prince hasn't eaten or drank anything for 2 whole days, and there hasn't been a single sound or sign of movement from his room either. Anna was absolutely terrified. What if something terrible happened to the prince? She remembered the chilling threat. Any sinner who brings harm to the royal family will face the ultimate penalty of death. So Anna hastily banged on the door and cried out, "Your Highness, are you all right?" She screamed, "Please forgive my intrusion, I'm coming in." Right at that moment, Xian opened the door and muttered, "What the hell is all this noise about?" Since she wasn't paying attention, Anna fell flat on her face right onto the floor. The tray of food spilled all over Xian's shoes. He stared down at her with an ice-cold expression. Seeing that Anna immediately burst into tears, I deserve 1,000 deaths. I was just worried that your Highness might be feeling unwell." With tears streaming down her face, she explained, So I just, Before Anna could even finish, Xian coldly cut her off. "Barging in and disturbing me out of nowhere is one thing." He raised an eyebrow in annoyance and demanded, "Now you're getting my floor, and my shoes filthy too. How exactly do you plan on taking responsibility for this?" Anna shrieked in absolute panic. "I truly deserve to die. I don't care about my own worthless life, but please spare my family." Hearing that Xian ordered, "Forget it. Get this cleaned up spotless in 5 minutes and then get the hell out of my sight." This left Anna bewildered. "Yes, right away, Your Highness." She heard him add a final warning. "And from now on, unless I personally call for you, all of you are strictly forbidden from coming anywhere near my private quarters." Xian let out an exhausted sigh. Offering up their lives over every little thing, it gives me the creeps. Well, I've set clear boundaries now, so hopefully I won't be bothered by this annoying nonsense anymore. And, just like that, the sky was clear and blue once again. Time really does fly. In the blink of an eye, a whole month has passed since the first prince had that sudden nosebleed at the sacrificial ritual. Meanwhile, a quiet rumor has been spreading throughout the palace. Word is that the first prince, the future emperor, has lost his powers. While Garcia is agonizing over this for the other princes and the public, that rumor is basically a signal. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity has finally arrived. John slowly recalled the plot of the novel. To crush those rumors, the first prince begged the emperor to move up the schedule for the hunting competition, though there is a slight deviation here. This was originally supposed to happen 6 months later. He calmly rode his horse, calculating his next move. Fortunately, things are generally still sticking close to the original plot. The only issue is whether this change is confined to the capital or if it's already affecting the male lead out there in the real world. As the procession rode further in, he thought to himself, "Today is the royal hunting competition. With any luck, I'll run into him at the event today, and then I can hand that thing over to him. After that, I'll just lay low and wait for the right moment." Right then, a mocking voice called out, "Hey, you little worm over there!" Kalat rode past him, throwing out a taunt. "That black horse really suits your gloomy face." John barely cared, continuing his own train of thought. "One thing that does worry me a bit is that since this is a year before the main story begins, that guy seems way more impulsive and reckless than he was in the novel." He told himself, "To hell with him. It's not worth the effort. I have way more important things to do today." Seeing Jian ride off without a word, Salat's competitive streak flared up. He raised his voice. "You little punk, are you seriously ignoring me right now?" Jen patted his horse and mused, "Trying to use a black horse to insult me. Honestly, I personally prefer black horses over white ones anyway. It seems the 7th prince at least has a knack for getting along with animals." He looked ahead and spoke up. "We're finally here." Looking at the scenery ahead, John couldn't help but exclaim, "So this is the entrance to the royal forest." That right there is the Tower of Origins. This year's opening ceremony is being held right at this spot. John hopped off his horse with absolute confidence. As soon as the first prince finishes the ritual, the hunting competition will officially begin. He quietly evaluated the situation. Honestly, this feels way more like a political faction war than an actual talent competition. At that moment, the emperor arrived. He glanced at Garcia and ordered, "First Prince, hurry up and prepare for the upcoming opening ceremony." Garcia hastily replied, "Understood, Your Majesty." From behind, Dido stepped up and probed. "I am so glad to see you in such good health, older brother. Have you thought about what you are going to wish for?" Garcia frowned and jumped off his horse, shooting back. "What kind of wish are you talking about, Dido?" Dido instantly replied, "The wish that His Majesty grants to the winner of the hunting competition, of course. After all, isn't it a given that you'll be the winner today?" Hearing the obvious flattery, Garcia scoffed coldly. Of course. From the very beginning, this ceremony was meant to be a chance for the future emperor to show off his mana. A pure display of royal power right in front of the nobles. The commoners below were gossiping non-stop. "Oh, it is such an honor to witness the first prince's mana with my own eyes today, but I've heard some vague rumors lately about a rather unfortunate incident." "Shh, are you crazy? What if someone hears you?" Garcia stepped forward, gritting his teeth in silent fury. "To think the day would come when I would have to take orders from that little worm. You better not be bluffing." He recalled Jian's overly confident face from that day. Garcia clenched his jaw, thinking to himself, "If you dare trick me, I will hack you to pieces in the most painful way possible." Down below, Jian was smiling as he watched him. Look at him, stiff as a board. "Don't be so nervous, Garcia." He felt a thrill of excitement, like he was up to no good. "As long as you do exactly what I told you, we're in for a really good show in a bit." Dark, heavy clouds began rolling into the sky above. Garcia was completely focused on channeling his mana. The surrounding energy seemed to completely envelop his entire body. Powerful streams of mana swirled everywhere. It churned like a fierce tornado wanting to swallow up everything in its path. Suddenly, a large rock struck someone in the crowd. The surrounding crowd panicked and cried out, "Watch out, don't get sucked into the vortex." They continuously shouted to one another, "Everyone, step back!" Only Jian remained standing there with a straight face. He gritted his teeth and announced, "I am the first prince." Garcia word by painful word echoed out Avalon. Garcia reached both hands toward the sky and roared, the one destined to become the emperor. All the swirling mana rapidly condensed into a massive dragon. It soared straight into the high sky. Under Garcia's immense power, the dark clouds slowly faded away. The sky cleared up completely and gentle raindrops began to fall. Agnir spoke up, his voice tense. "So this is the magic power of the royal family." The people around him began cheering enthusiastically. "Hooray, long live the first prince." Flashing back to that day, Jian pulled out a stone and commanded Garcia, "Take this and channel your magic power into it." Garcia immediately protested. "A rock. Are you messing with me right now?" Jian casually explained, "It can absorb polluted magic power. But if you don't want the cure, feel free to just drop dead. I have absolutely zero interest in saving someone who has a death wish anyway." Hearing those words, Garcia was so furious his entire body wouldn't stop shaking. Back in the present, Jian happily climbed back onto his horse. Well, that buys some time. This is actually an item that isn't supposed to appear until the second half of the original story, but using it a bit early shouldn't be a big deal. Just then, a trembling figure came running over. "Seventh Prince, I greet you." Sen looked like he was about to collapse. Panting heavily, he reported, "As you ordered, I brought the bag you left behind." Yet Jian just replied coldly, "Ah, you finally made it." He shot him a freezing glare and scolded, "You really are useless. Can't do a single thing right. Did you bring the bag here entirely intact?" Sen bowed in absolute terror, thinking to himself, "Damn it all. How the hell did I even make it here on that crazy horse?" That horse is incredibly aggressive. It has already injured a lot of people. That is exactly why I purposely brought it for the seventh prince. Right at that moment, the sound of horns echoed everywhere. The emperor waved his hand to signal. Then, from this moment forward, the royal hunting competition has officially begun. The crowd immediately grew rowdy and rushed off. Should we try to win this thing to get a wish from the emperor? In your dreams, the royal family is definitely taking the prize again this time. Still on his horse, Jian shook his head slightly and sighed. Everyone is rushing off so frantically. Well, this competition doesn't really matter to me right now anyway. It's better to just lay low and avoid drawing any attention. That makes it much easier to search for the former Grand Commander of the Royal Knights, Agnir Federer. Meanwhile, Agnir was standing in the shade, questioning Tolan. What did you think of the opening ceremony for this hunt? Tolan smirked and sighed. Truly the power of a god. Hearing this, Agnir expressed his own thoughts. Watching that ritual, I get the feeling the Emperor is trying to psychologically intimidate the nobles. Upon hearing that, Duke Tolan frantically looked around and warned him, "Please, sir, such treasonous words should only be spoken when you are completely alone." Agnir calmly reassured him, "Relax, Enric Tolan. There is no one around here who could be eavesdropping on us." Agnir's gaze darkened as he muttered, "I've managed to live to this age for a reason, at least up until now." A short while later, Jian finally set off. The royal forest hosting the hunt was divided into 3 main zones. He held the map of the area, studying it closely. First was the small beast zone near the entrance, followed by the medium beast zone, and finally the large beast zone located deepest within the forest. Jian slowly recalled a detail from the novel. The male lead had offered the Emperor a golden fox during this very hunt. The problem was that detail was only briefly mentioned in a flashback, so he had no idea where to actually find it. That's exactly why I had to turn into a crow to scout this massive royal forest, he thought. With the area being so huge, finding the golden fox will be like looking for a needle in a haystack. I have to narrow down the search area. John spoke up with absolute confidence. Based on the detail that he washed his hands in the water right after hunting the beast, I bet the location is somewhere along the southwest shore of the lake. Excitement bubbled up as he pulled the reins, telling himself, "I need to stay one step ahead and wait for the perfect moment." Deep down, John couldn't help but feel like his horse actually understood everything he was saying. He glanced over at his bag and let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness Sen managed to bring the bag, he thought. I was worrying for nothing, just because he was running a little late. Now I just need to hand this directly to Duke Agony Fighter. Suddenly, the horse acted as if it had noticed something. It abruptly stopped right in its tracks, startling Jian. Confused, he hopped off the saddle and muttered, "What's going on here?" Jian cautiously checked on his mount. "Why did you stop out of nowhere? Are you feeling sick or something?" The black horse shook its head in denial. So he continued to ask, "Or did you spot a wild beast nearby?" Once again, the horse shook its head. John's eyes widened in disbelief. "Don't tell me this bag is too heavy for you." Immediately losing his temper, Jian yelled, "Stop being so stubborn. Other horses pull entire carriages, and you're throwing a fit over carrying one person in a single bag." He clenched his fists and challenged the beast. "All right then, let's see how long you can keep this up. If you keep acting this arrogant, I'm going to tell the stable master to starve you." But the moment the words left his mouth, the horse bolted away. John was left standing there, staring blankly at the dust trailing behind it. A heavy sense of dread washed over him. I am so dead. Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, Tolan glanced around the area and sighed. Normally, catching a few wolves or deer around this time would be a piece of cake, but it looks like luck just isn't on our side today. Agony lowered his head with a tinge of sadness. I suppose I really am getting old. I've spent my entire life as a sword and a shield, but even I cannot fight the passage of time. Standing beside him, Tolan smiled warmly to reassure him. "Please don't say that. You are already a living legend, Your Grace." He continued with his praises. "Didn't you achieve countless glorious victories during your time as the Grand Commander of the Knights?" Agony humbly brushed it off. "Now I am nothing more than a retired old man." Then the Duke asked, "Tolan, have you ever seen the royal family up close?" "Caught off guard," the aide replied. "No, sir, I've only ever seen them from a distance, just like today." Agony lowered his voice, sounding a bit melancholic. "When you face them directly, you will understand. Only then will you realize who the truly great beings of this empire are." He spoke thoughtfully. "They are living gods in the flesh. Our family has protected the empire of those gods for 1,000 years. Agony's mind drifted back to a specific day in the past, remembering the words he had spoken to his son. "Look outside, my son. Witness the majesty of this beautiful and magnificent imperial capital." Agony had instructed Flynn back then. "I am old now, so you must be the one to inherit my position. We must always take pride in being the royal family's most loyal subjects." The young boy obediently replied, "Yes, father." Gesturing outside once more, Agony guided him. "Look out the window. That is our family's merchant guild. We take pride in being the primary suppliers for the royal family." Smiling with immense pride, he continued, "And right over there is the temple." Suddenly a loud thud echoed through the carriage, prompting Agony to step out. "Hey, what on earth is going on?" The coachman frantically replied, "Good heavens, my deepest apologies, master. Something seems to have gotten stuck under the wheels." He quickly suggested, "Please step back inside the carriage, your grace. I will clean this mess up immediately." However, Agony's eyes had already caught sight of the little boy lying on the ground. Thick trails of blood seeped out from under the wheels. The coachman casually remarked, "Looks like one of the local nomads. It seems he got caught trying to steal royal tributes from the temple." He stated indifferently, "Around these parts, things like this happen every single day." From inside the carriage, little Flynn asked curiously, "Father, what happened? I want to come out and see too." But Agony shouted loudly to stop him. "Do not come out here!" the boy called out in confusion. "Father!" His face darkening, Agony ordered, "You are not to step outside." Agony's eyes became empty and hollow as he stammered, It's nothing at all." Snapping back to the present, Agony looked up at the sky, lost in thought. That boy couldn't have been older than 10, right? A wave of sorrow washed over him. He was even younger than my own son. That child was probably thrown into the incinerator. To think that even in such a noble empire, there exists such a dark, twisted corner. Standing behind him, Tolan quickly reminded him, "We don't have time to leisurely enjoy the scenery, your grace. Even if we don't win, we still need to save face for the Duke's household." Hearing that, Agony snapped out of his daze and replied, "My apologies. Let's get moving. I know a place where the golden fox might appear." Meanwhile, Jian was leaning against a tree, panting heavily. "Running around with this bag is exhausting. I swear I'm turning you into horse meat the moment I get back." He gritted his teeth in sheer frustration. "I can't transform just because I have to carry this stupid bag. It'll be a disaster if I lose track of Duke Fighter. Should I just transform and head back?" Leaning heavily against the trunk, Jian thought to himself, "From the times I turned into a crow and scouted ahead, I accidentally discovered that this forest is incredibly dangerous. Even here in the small beast zone, you never know when a wild predator might strike." Suddenly, a rustling sound echoed nearby, putting Jian on high alert. "Is there actually a wild beast here?" His mind raced as he calculated his next move. "Damn it! What should I do now? It'd be such a waste to just ditch this bag and run, but I didn't bring any weapons because it was too inconvenient." Finally making up his mind, Jian picked up a rock and hurled it into the bushes. Screw it. If I'm really in danger, I'll just make a run for it. Over on the other side, Tolan pushed through the foliage and announced, "I'm absolutely certain I saw it. A black horse was galloping towards us from a distance." But the moment he finished speaking, the rock smacked him squarely in the face. John panicked, questioning himself. "That hair color. Don't tell me it's him." Hearing the loud thud, Agony rushed over in a panic. "Tolan! Tolan! What was that noise? Are you all right?" Realizing who it was, John quickly ducked behind the tree to hide. "That blue hair. It's definitely Duke Fighter's trusted aide." Tolan Dissa was now knocked out cold on the ground. Terrified, he concealed his presence. "I am so dead. I never expected to bump into him in a place like this. The man out there is the former Grand Commander of the Royal Knights, a legendary war hero. Duke Agony Fighter. From what Jian knew, he was the very man who would become the master of the novel's male lead, the one who would eventually overthrow this entire empire. At this moment, Jian frantically hid behind a tree, glancing over at Agony. "Agony Fighter, I can't bump into him here." He then recalled the trap he originally set for him. "The original plan wasn't like this at all. I was supposed to ambush the Golden Fox's den first. Then when Fighter arrived, I'd frame him for daring to steal the royal family's prey." Jian immediately imagined Agony carrying a heavy bag of rocks. "After that, I'd hand down an absurd punishment, forcing him to carry that bag of rocks for the entire hunt. Just doing that would have been enough." But now he gritted his teeth in utter panic. "What should I do now? Everything is completely messed up." On the other hand, the Duke was glancing at the rock on the ground. "This rock is pretty heavy. Someone definitely threw it on purpose." Filled with suspicion, Agony scanned the distance. Can't be sure their target was only Tolan. Could it be an assassin aiming for me? Suddenly, Tolan woke up in pain, whispering weakly Duke. He immediately turned to Tolan. However, Agony didn't lower his guard and reminded Tolan, "Are you fully awake? If you remember anything, speak up right away." Even Jian started to feel anxious. The Pfeifert family has protected the royal family for over a millennium. They're the most powerful faction in the empire. Right now, I'm just the seventh prince treated like worthless trash. What if rumors spread that I tried to assassinate Duke Pfeifert Tolan? Sweating with a dazed look, recalled, "I saw it." Jian felt increasingly terrified. Things are going way too far. Damn it. What do I do? What should I do now? Tolan seemed ready to blurt out a name, but instead he let out an apology. "I'm sorry, Duke, everything happened so fast." Hearing this, Jian joyfully exclaimed, "Holy crap, that was a close one." Agony said, "All right, I understand if you remember anything else." Suddenly, he spotted a dark figure behind the tree. It was Jian who took the chance to run for his life. "This is my chance. I gotta run. I need to get as far away as possible." The Duke immediately chased after him. "Wait here for a moment. I'll drag the attacker back." In a flash, Jian had run deep into the forest, but he was already showing signs of exhaustion. "My stamina is completely gone. Running while carrying this damn heavy bag of rocks. It's gonna kill me." Jin kept running while checking behind him. "But I've probably run far enough by now, right? Shaking off an old man like him should be a piece of cake." Yet Agony was still hot on his heels. This crazy old man. Didn't they say he retired from the military? He shouted as he chased State. "Your name, are you a rebel or part of an evil cult? I don't care who you are, but you won't escape from Agony." Pfeifert Jian grew even more frantic as the gap closed. "Crap, he's about to catch up to me." He thought of a plan while running. "Should I just ditch this damn bag and turn into a crow? If only that crazy black horse were here right now." Jian prepared to speed up. "No, right now, I just wish I could run incredibly fast." His footsteps got faster and faster. Suddenly, Jian sprinted at top speed. Agony, trailing behind, was also surprised. "I thought I was about to catch him. How did he suddenly speed up? His shape seems to be changing too." Annoyed, he swung his sword forward. "Are my eyes playing tricks on me? This is so frustrating." A section of the forest was slashed away, but Agony couldn't see any trace of him. Did I lose him? On the other side, Jian felt something strange as he ran. "My body suddenly feels so light. Did I turn into a crow again? But I clearly feel like I'm still running hard." At that moment, the silhouette of a black horse appeared. Hoofbeats. Did that damn horse come back? Its eyes were reflecting the forest ahead. Or maybe in a moment of panic, he transformed into the crazy horse, so confusing. Elsewhere, the fourth prince looked up in awe. "Wow, this. Oh my god. Eldest brother, did you really catch this?" Garcia looked smugly at the monster's corpse in front of him. "What is it that hard to believe?" He immediately offered his congratulations. "The victory of this hunt belongs to you, eldest brother. Have you thought about what wish you'll ask the emperor for?" He just gave a faint smile. "A wish?" Suddenly, Garcia's face revealed a sinister look. "I already have something in mind." Meanwhile, Jian was resting against a large tree, sighing heavily. He grabbed his head in worry. "I'm so screwed?" At that moment, Jian finally realized he had dropped the bag full of rocks while running away. I dropped the bag. Unable to accept it, he rolled around groaning. "Damn it, losing the most important thing hurts the most. There's gotta be a limit to how much things can go wrong." Now his face was filled with regret. However, Jian sighed and quickly pulled himself together. "Standing here, stressing out, won't solve anything. I should retrace my steps and check." Tolan, who was resting, looked a bit surprised. "Oh, Duke, you're back." Agony immediately checked on his injury. "Does your head feel any better?" Tolan laughed it off to reassure him. "I'm fine, though. I'm still a little dizzy." He then brought up the recent chase. More importantly, how did it go? The Duke let out a heavy sigh and admitted, "It's shameful, but I lost him. I don't know if he was just too fast or if I've really gotten old." Suddenly, Agony noticed the bag full of rocks. "By the way, what is that?" Tolan answered honestly. "This bag, I picked it up on my way back. It was left behind in the bushes." He quickly leaned down to inspect it. "It looks pretty luxurious, but why is it full of rocks inside?" Jian was currently hiding behind a tree, eavesdropping on their conversation. "How would I know? Probably someone with too much free time playing a prank." Suddenly he jumped out and shouted, startling them. "Ah, that bag!" The two men looked at Jian in shock and blurted out, "Seventh Prince, Your Highness!" They immediately knelt down to pay their respects. "We greet the seventh prince. We greet the seventh prince." Agony was the first to speak. "May I ask if this bag belongs to you, Your Highness?" He straightforwardly admitted it. "Yeah, I was just wondering where it disappeared to." Jian suddenly adopted a condescending attitude and questioned them. "But why is my stuff with you guys? Did you steal it?" The Duke, astonished, immediately denied it. "Steal? That's absurd. I merely picked it up by chance while passing through the bushes." He deliberately kept up a suspicious attitude. Anyone in that situation would make that excuse, 'cause nobody wants their hands chopped off. Agony quickly swore, "I swear upon this worthless life and the honor of my entire family." Jen then pretended to care about Tolan. "Why is your aide bleeding like that?" He also turned to look at him and explained, "Oh, that. A sudden accident just happened earlier." Only then did Tolan dare to look up. In a flash, the image of him throwing the rock at him suddenly popped into his mind. Tolan was just about to ask for clarification. Seventh Prince, could it be? But Jian quickly stepped forward and grabbed his head. His face was cold and threatening. A mere subordinate dares to interrupt a royal conversation. How utterly ill-mannered. Jian continued his intimidation, completely ignoring Tolan, who was trembling in fear. "If he's not in his right mind, would you mind lending me your sword? I'd be happy to discipline him myself." Tolan went completely pale and stammered, "Your Highness, I—" Agony stood nearby and respectfully pleaded for mercy. "My aide has made a grave mistake. If you show him mercy, I will personally see to it that he is strictly punished." John feigned approval. "Oh, Duke Fidel, your loyalty is truly admirable." He then brought up the past. "What a shining example. You're such a perfect royal hound that you wouldn't even blink if your own guard was about to die." John went even further, dragging Fidel's family into it. "I'm sure your son will grow up to be just as loyal of a dog." He picked up a bag, setting his plan into motion. "Since fate brought us together today, I'm going to trust you to hold on to this bag for me." John gave a sinister smile as he handed the bag to Agoni. "This is incredibly important. Even if it costs you your life, do not let it out of your sight." He added a mocking tone. "Do we have an understanding?" Looking clearly disgruntled, but left with no choice, the Duke agreed. "I humbly accept your noble command, Your Highness." His trap set, Jian let out a breath and walked away. "I'll be heading back now. Enjoy the rest of your hunt." He thought to himself, "Phew, whatever, I feel so much lighter now." Still, he couldn't help but glance back nervously. "Even I think my acting just now was absolute trash. I feel a bit bad for Tolan, but I had to plant this seed." Meanwhile, Tolan finally spoke up to apologize. "I'm so sorry, Duke. Because of me." But the Duke coldly cut him off. "You should just be glad you still have all your limbs. Let's head back and rest. We are done for today." Still wanting to report his attack, Tolan said, "Duke, I just remembered something about the guy who threw rocks at me." Tolan's revelation made the Duke's face darken. "It was the seventh prince." He tried to explain further. "I didn't realize it at first, but when I saw him up close—" Filled with frustration, Agony cut him off. "Stop. You don't need to say another word." John was busy recalling the novel's original plot. Fidel was supposed to cause a massive incident during next year's hunt, but that only happened because the death of his son had completely shattered his mind. He was actively planning to change the storyline, so to force that incident to happen during this year's hunt, I need to give him a strong enough push. Elsewhere, Garcia was laying out his own schemes. "The favor I will ask of the Emperor this time is to redevelop the area around the temple." A look of pure disgust crossed his face. "Those nomads living like parasites in the imperial capital. I'm going to wipe every last one of them out." John's eyes gleamed with a clear sense of purpose. "Duke Fidel, your future is already set in stone." Meanwhile, Agony turned his gaze toward the setting sun. It foreshadowed the man he would soon become. "You will rebel against the royal family because that is your ultimate destiny." Just then, a figure landed softly in the dusky forest. He carefully crept through the thick bushes. It was Jian, staying on high alert. "I circled the sky dozens of times to check before landing. There shouldn't be any witnesses around, right?" He suddenly felt a twinge of guilt for what he had done. "I can't believe I pulled such a nasty trick on Fidel and Tolan. I feel exactly like one of those cheap, trashy villains. Oh, wait. I actually am the villain." While Jian was lost in thought, a shadowy figure suddenly appeared. As the day's hunt came to a close, the figure smiled in feigned surprise. "Oh my, if it isn't you, Jian! It's not every day I see you taking a leisurely stroll alone in the woods." It was none other than the first princess Mento Abidjan. John gave her a cautious look. The first princess. I didn't expect to run into her in the middle of nowhere. He quickly offered a polite bow. "I greet Her Highness, the first princess." She waved it off with fake warmth. "Oh, drop the stiff formalities. We're royal siblings after all." Playing the caring Sister Mento asked, "By the way, what happened to your horse? Why are you walking back all by yourself?" "Ah, well." John quickly made up an excuse. "I just wanted to take a walk and get some fresh air, so I left my horse back at the camp." Mento's voice suddenly turned ice cold. "I don't understand." She glared at him sharply. "Why would you lie to your own flesh and blood?" Playing dumb, Jian asked, "What do you mean?" Sister Mento immediately explained. "While I was walking through the western forest this afternoon, I came across a riderless black horse. It had such a unique coat, so I asked the servants about it. They told me it belonged to you." Her tone was horrifyingly casual and cold-blooded. "I personally ordered them to slaughter that horse. Any beast that dares to wander without its royal master deserves nothing but death." John immediately dropped to his knees to apologize. "Forgive me, sister. I was just too ashamed to admit that I had lost my horse, so I lied." Mento put her generous mask back on. "Oh, come now, lift your head. If people see you like this, they'll think I'm bullying my little brother." She turned to walk away. "I'm just glad you made it back safely. If you ever need another horse, just come find me." John kept his guard up as he watched her leave. This first princess Mento Abidjan is a real piece of work. It's completely impossible to guess what's going on inside her head. Her terrifying expression lingered in his mind. But why did she let it go so easily? Could it be that her power doesn't work on me? Meanwhile, inside one of the camp's tents, a voice rang out. "Let me get this straight." A medic was giving his patient a very skeptical look. "You were chasing down a wild beast, tripped over a rock, and then smashed your head straight into another rock." He looked down at Tolan and let out a heavy sigh. "I've seen my fair share of injuries at these royal hunts, but this is the first time I've ever seen someone pathetic enough to get a concussion just from tripping over rocks." Agoni stepped forward to check on him. "How long will it take for him to recover?" The medic gave his assessment. "He might look fine on the outside, but the internal trauma is no joke. He needs to stay flat on his back in bed for at least a week." Tolan immediately protested. "A whole week? You want me to stay in bed for the entire hunting festival as a guard? It's my duty to stay by the Duke's side." Agony gently placed a hand on Tolan's shoulder to calm him down. "I appreciate your loyalty," the Duke firmly advised him, "but your life comes first. Just stay here and rest until the closing ceremony. I'll handle the rest of the hunt myself." Tolan still tried to argue. "But Duke..." But then a huge grin spread across his face. "Understood. If that is truly your command, then I promise to rest as hard as I possibly can." Agony couldn't help but chuckle. "A hunting guard treating a royal event like a paid vacation. You really are one of a kind in the history of the Empire." Tolan couldn't hide his excitement. "Hey, you've never given me a single day off before. My absolute dream in life is to just eat and do nothing. The only problem is I'm totally broke." The Duke smiled. "Well then, I guess I'll just have to win this hunt to make your dream come true. When I do, I'll ask for a gold mine as a reward just for you." The hours ticked by, and it was soon the dead of night. While Tolan was fast asleep, a figure quietly approached his bed. The person gently slipped a letter right beside him. Meanwhile, Jian's sinister face and his mocking words from that morning flashed through Agoni's mind. "What a shining example! You're such a perfect royal hound that you wouldn't even blink if your own guard was in mortal danger." Agony was sitting alone, clutching his head as the prince's harsh words echoed in his ears. "I'm sure your son will grow up to be just as loyal of a dog." Unable to shake it off, he decided to step outside. "I can't sleep. I should probably just get some fresh air." But as he stepped out, Agony noticed something sitting right next to his tent. It was the heavy bag of rocks that Jian had forced him to hold on to. Agony decided to keep it with him. He thought to himself as he walked, "Today I'm taking you to the temple. There's something I really want to show you." Agony began to reminisce about the ancient past, back when the world was plunged into chaos and despair, and a savior descended from the heavens. The person chatting with him was Ferlin. "I've read about it in books, Father. You're talking about Emperor Caesar, right?" Agony stood before the giant statue and continued his story. He was an incarnation of the gods who wielded mystical power and the one who crushed the warmongers. He kept talking about the founder of the current empire. Over 1,000 years ago, he established a unified empire named Abaddon. He is the founding ancestor of the royal family we serve. Agony was still thinking of his son Ferlin. "My son, my priceless treasure." He looked toward the dawn, recalling his words to his son, "Inherit my legacy and become the proud sword of the royal family." Only now did Agony notice, this bag of rocks on my back is so heavy. Why am I carrying these rocks around like this? He was still lost in his deep thoughts. Is it because of loyalty? Or maybe Agony suddenly heard a noise from afar. Could this horn be? At the same time, the villagers were gathering around something. Oh my God, all of this in just one night. I heard the beasts howling, echoing relentlessly all night long. They were gossiping about the corpse of a giant monster. Looks like the first prince completely wiped them out. Does this mean the hunt is already over? The people were endlessly amazed by Garcia's achievement. Originally, the royal hunt was supposed to last for 4 days, but the first prince of the Abaddon Empire achieved an unprecedented, overwhelming hunting record in just a single night. Right after that came the declaration of his victory. Therefore, I officially declare that he is the winner of this competition. The emperor also came to congratulate Garcia. "Congratulations on your victory." He immediately bowed in gratitude. "Thank you, royal father." He immediately asked for the reward Garcia wanted, according to the rules. "First prince, tell me the wish you want granted." The crowd gossiped in curiosity again. I wonder what he's going to ask for. Didn't the fourth prince ask for the right to purge the nomads at the border last year? He began to express his wish. Recently, refugees have been gathering like parasites around the temple of Emperor Caesar, damaging the majesty and security of the holy grounds. Garcia said with a smile, to restore the temple to its original beauty. The more Agony listened, the more uneasy he felt. He was utterly shocked by his request. "I beg your majesty to grant me the right to purge them." A faint voice started echoing in Agony's head. "Father, father!" In those eyes, his image was clearly reflected. Agony suddenly drew his sword from its sheath, a loyal hunting dog of the royal family. But that child, his drawing of the sword made the terrified crowd back away. Agony's face showed sheer seriousness. "I'm sorry, Ferlin, my son." At the same time, a vague voice called out, "Hey, hey!" John's face suddenly appeared in front of him. "Hey, you!" Ferlin panicked and tumbled out of bed. "Who is it?" "I greet His Highness, the 7th Prince." He then showed a bit of concern. "Move slowly, the blood is rushing to your head, so you'll get dizzy." John kindly added, "Remember to find a doctor later and ask for some anti-inflammatory medicine. Oh wait, get some olive leaves to drink." He quickly obliged. "Yes, sir, but why are you here?" He just sighed and replied, "Well, let's skip the reason. Do you even know what kind of situation the Duke is in right now? The closing ceremony must have already started by now." Ferlin still didn't understand what was going on. The closing ceremony. "What do you mean?" Gian inwardly cheered him on to run faster. "That's right. Hurry up and run over there right now." Ferlin quickly pushed his way to the front. "Excuse me, sorry, coming through. Sorry." But the scene before his eyes left him completely stunned. It was the sight of Agony kneeling before Garcia Duke. He was trembling with fury right now. Duke Fidus. What the hell is going on here? He remained perfectly still and declared, "Our Fidus family has served Emperor Caesar since the very beginning and has guarded the royal family from the closest distance for over 1,000 years. Agony's face was full of solemnity as he stated, "Considering that our Fidus family is much more suited for the lowly task of handling the refugees around the temple." He then bluntly stated his wish in front of the emperor. "Therefore I, Agony, Fidus, boldly beg your majesty to grant me this special privilege." Surprisingly, he immediately agreed. "In respect of the loyalty you have dedicated your whole life to, I shall grant your request." But the emperor's voice suddenly turned cold. "However, it really is quite ridiculous when your so-called immense loyalty is used to stand in the way of the royal family's wishes." Then Garcia immediately made a move against Agony. "Do you think the first prince will show any mercy?" He laughed in contempt again. "You've lost your mind, Duke. Did you forget that your current actions are enough to get you beheaded on the spot? He was ready to accept his death sentence for the grave sin of ruining His Majesty's sacred ceremony. I will use this life to pay the price. Outside, Ferlin was screaming at the top of his lungs, Duke. John was also outside enjoying the show. The drama has finally begun. If only that guy was watching this from afar too. Meanwhile, in another place, someone was fetching water from the river, but something unexpected suddenly happened. He looked down completely confused. What is this? The water stream was actually being pulled up into the air. Did you see it clearly? The execution ceremony of Agony Fitis. Can you feel the magical power of the royal family that you are about to face? The person fetching water just looked up with a piercingly cold gaze, the true protagonist of the novel Darkhead Zaito.